So anti-people are also possible. Anti-planets, anti-galaxies are also possible. But the danger is that if the two touch each other, then they will annihilate into a burst of energy.
An intriguing new idea proposed by physicists states that an anti-universe may operate in reverse time starting from the point where the Great Big Bang occurred. If we take into account the fact that there is basic symmetry in the universe as a whole, a mirror image of our own world may assist us in gaining a deeper comprehension of the properties of dark matter. If you are unfamiliar with the anti-universe theory, it proposes that the early universe was extremely hot, dense, and small. Additionally, it was so uniform that it would seem the same traveling backward as it did to go forward in time. The fundamentals of symmetry are the conceptual basis of the anti-universe theory. According to the CPT theorem, charge, parity, and time are all reverse symmetrical in that their behaviors are the same irrespective of the direction in which they are flipped. For example, when you witness the mirror image, you receive the same result, and when an interaction runs backward, it still appears the same. If you flip the charge of a particle, you'll have the same reaction, and if you observe the same outcome, you'll get the same result. The vast majority of observable exchanges adhere to these rules, and researchers have yet to come across a situation where all three fundamentals of reverse symmetry have been broken simultaneously. In an article published in the Annals of Physics in 2018, theoretical physicist Latham Boyle and his colleagues extended the application of symmetry in physical interactions to the entirety of the cosmos. The idea that all physical interactions maintain a fundamental balance raises the possibility that a mirror universe should exist alongside our own. Everything is turned upside down, and time moves in the opposite direction. This would bring harmony to our universe. If there were such a thing as the anti-universe, it could shed light on the nature of dark matter as well. There are three types of neutrinos that are known to us: electron neutrinos, muon neutrinos, and tau neutrinos. All of these neutrinos spin in a direction to the left. Now, we're all familiar with neutrinos, which are subatomic particles that are very similar to an electron, but they carry no electrical charge and have a very small mass, which might even be zero. The fact that all other particles possess versions that spin to either the left or the right is something that has physicists intrigued. Because of this, scientists have argued for a long time about whether or not there is such a thing as a right-spinning neutrino. A mirror universe holds the secret to finding the answer. If these particles did exist, we could not determine whether or not they were there. On the other hand, gravity ensures that they would engage in behavior analogous to dark matter when interacting with the rest of the cosmos. In addition, this fictitious scenario might shed light on the mystery surrounding the presence of dark matter. There's no way for us to know whether or not there is something called an anti-universe. If there is, it must have existed before the Big Bang, which is something that modern scientists cannot yet investigate. Nevertheless, they can examine this theory using Majorana particles. The hypothetical antiparticle of the neutrino is known as the Majorana particle. Even if we were unable to determine for sure at this time whether or not neutrinos have an antiparticle, this is one of the ways that researchers could look for evidence of an anti-universe. One of the neutrinos would be massless and have no charge at all. If researchers can devise a method for reliably measuring the mass of the particles, as mentioned earlier, and discover that at least one of them is massless, this would be proof that supports the idea. In addition, the expansion of the cosmos might carry clues as to how it first came into being. The exponential growth of the universe is thought to have occurred at the same rate as the speed of light, according to the cosmic inflation theory. Many physicists believe this explains a few problems with the Big Bang theory. Numerous experiments are currently being conducted to provide evidence that the universe did create gravitational waves during the period of inflation when it was younger. Suppose scientific research cannot establish that these waves do in fact exist. In that case, we will be forced to look for an alternate explanation, whereby one possibility is that a mirror universe could acquire a robust theoretical basis. For those wondering what the anti-universe would be like, scientists have a basic comprehension of the fundamentals of antimatter in the study conducted at the Massive Hadron Collider. In a universe dominated by antimatter, galaxies and stars would never come into being. Instead, it would have a great deal of antihydrogen and helium charges. It's not feasible to travel to the anti-universe, and anyone who attempted to do so would certainly perish in the process. If you were to make it to the anti-universe, the particles in your body would react with the number of antiparticles in this mirror universe, causing you to explode spectacularly before utterly vanishing from existence. In this scenario, you would risk wiping out all forms of life in the mirrored version of Earth. When just 1 gram of antimatter combines with 1 gram of matter, the resulting reaction can generate a response that is comparable to 21.5 kilotons. This is more powerful than the bomb that was initially used to destroy Nagasaki. Considering that the typical person weighs about 165 pounds, the results of this would be catastrophic. Even if we were to discover a method that would allow us to avoid being destroyed by an antimatter reaction, we would still have to travel back 13.8 billion years to a different universe in time. Now, let us understand why the timeline on the anti-universe would reverse itself. The widely accepted Big Bang theory postulates that the universe started with an uneven distribution of particles and antiparticles. When these two opposing forces came into contact with one another, an explosive reaction occurs in which they combine and cease to exist. Suppose there had been a more significant number of particles in the universe when the Big Bang happened. In that case, the remaining particles could have begun to merge into matter, leading to the formation of our universe as we know it today. Matter and antimatter were in equal quantities at the time of the Big Bang. A short time later, there were 1,000,000,001 antimatter particles for every 1 billion particles. Now that researchers have eliminated the possibility of finding any significant concentration of these antiparticles, the issue becomes, where did they go? Dr. Neil Turok, a theoretical physicist, postulated a theory that posits that right after the Big Bang, 2 universes sprung into existence at the same time. One of these is the universe in which we exist. In this universe, time advances and the universe itself is made up of material things. Everything in the anti-universe would either be symmetrical or precisely the opposite. Everything would be composed of antimatter in this hypothetical universe, and time would move in the opposite direction. Everything here happens backward, starting in the future and ending in the past. You would be seeing an inverted screen if you were there now, and you would already be aware of the ending to this video before you had even finished watching the opening. Having said that, regardless of whether we live in the universe or the anti-universe, we would still have the same experience of the material world, and time would go in the same direction. The concept of an anti-universe is both intriguing and thrilling to those who work in the scientific community. However, while demonstrating its existence would be an incredible feat, visiting there or linking these two worlds would have terrible effects. This is even though proving its existence would be an astonishing feat. The anti-universe is a mirror image of our universe, but everything is in the opposite order. Everything would be backward in this hypothetical space, and instead of seeing beautiful shining stars, we would only see the traces of a hydrogen explosion.